Welcome, everybody. Great to see so many of you here tonight. And welcome to the launch of our Zones Membership Action Plan, or MAP as we call it. MAP standing, of course, for the first letters of Membership, Action, and Plan. And do we have a plan for you? So let's ask ourselves some questions. Are you tired of seeing our clubs wither away and die? Seeing once proud clubs become a shadow of their former selves? Watching Rotary have less of an impact in your communities? It's time that we as an organization give all our club membership chairs an easy to follow plan to grow our clubs. And I'm here today to announce that Zone 33 and 34 is moving from the boom-bust effect of short-term membership campaigns to a multi-year approach to create a membership culture that will result in consistent, moderate growth at club level. Candidly, I understand. I've been in your exact same position. Some of you may feel a bit leery about another membership program, or you may have your own membership program, and that's fine. Maybe you feel like this is just one more thing to add to your plate. But with this new plan, we are giving clubs complete control with a step-by-step program to improve their membership attraction and retention backed by real-time data. And this isn't just about gathering more members for the sake of increasing numbers. It's to ensure that clubs continue attracting and retaining service-minded individuals, people of purpose, influence, and action like ourselves, to improve the service in their communities. Since 2015, Rotary International has officially recognized membership growth as our top internal priority. We are a membership organization that delivers amazing service. However, membership decline remains the biggest problem we have to solve. Your clubs deserve a multi-year approach to create a membership culture that will result in consistent, moderate growth. And that's what Zones 33 and 34 Membership Action Plan, or MAP, intends to help you do. As most of us are all too aware, Rotary's global membership numbers have been stagnant for the past 20 years, plateauing at around 1.2 million members in 2004. And even though last year we saw a modest rise in global membership, nudging us above the 1.2 million mark once again, regionally, the picture remains very worrying. With India and Asia experiencing significant growth, but places like my home in the Caribbean just about breaking even, and North America and other Western cultures still experiencing significant decline. Whilst more flexible, innovative club models are showing the green shoots of success, many of our traditional clubs or legacy clubs are struggling, becoming smaller and weaker in the process, less able to deliver impactful service or offer positive customer experiences to our members. The biggest myth in our clubs is that we can retain our way to growth. And this simply isn't the case. Name any thriving business or organization who isn't trying to attract new customers. Engagement and retention are both important, but it must be paired with attraction to create a vibrant, sustainable Rotary Club. Now I'm going to hand over to Rotary Coordinator for Zone 34, Mike Dara, and he'll tell us more about why we need to do this. Thank you.
So there's a big question we have to ask. Why? Why do we want to grow membership? This isn't simply about increasing numbers. This is about accomplishing Rotary's vision statement. And I'll read that to you. It lays out our course in less than 25 words. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. If we want lasting change, we can only do that as we build a strong membership base. That's why all 4 tenets of Rotary's action plan involve membership. increase our impact, expand our reach, increase engagement, and constantly adapt by seeking new ideas. But what's that mean for us? If you're on this call, you are a leader. As a leader, you have two things you need to remember. First, leaders measure progress with numbers. They tell us where we are and whether we're moving in the right direction. However, raw numbers don't motivate people. They don't help us see what we can accomplish. They don't excite us with the possibilities. The second thing leaders do is they motivate us. They capture our hearts so that we find others to help us make that lasting change and to grow our impact. They help us see that as we grow more, we can do more, we can serve more, we can raise more money for projects, we can build a bigger network of friends, and we can ensure our club's future with a larger group of leaders. Grow more, do more. Grow your impact. These are the sorts of messages we need to use when we talk about membership. Lose the old terms about an obligation to bring a new member. That makes a visitor to a club feel like they're only a number, or at best, a dues payer. As leaders, we need to help people see that they and the people they bring to Rotary are helping to build an outstanding organization that does incredible things. But as I said, we as leaders do need to have goals, and we need to understand how to determine whether we're succeeding and whether we're failing, and where we're succeeding and failing. To cover that, I turn to our Rotary coordinator for Zone 33, Terry Weaver.
Thank you, Mike. Jeremy pointed out what I call Rotary's retention myth, which we've all heard from the highest level of Rotary leadership. It goes like this. We're pretty good at attracting people. We're just not so good at keeping them. We have a retention problem. And you've probably bought off on that, particularly if you looked at only the top level of data, where we see, obviously, and truly, we attract about 150,000 members a year on average and lose about 170,000. But the problem with large numbers like that, it obscures what's really happening when you get down to the level of detail where the organization works, in our case, the Rotary Club. And this myth is so pervasive. I saw this on a 20-foot tall screen at the Rotary Convention in Hamburg. And the lady on the podium believed it as well. The trouble is, I've spent about 5 years rolling around in the membership data of about 1,700 Rotary clubs. And folks, when you get down to the club level, you can find no evidence to support that statement. The fact is that many of our Rotary clubs are really good at keeping members, and some of those same clubs are just awful. Now, here's a tip for you. The best way to minimize attrition in your Rotary club is never ask anybody to join. I'll say that again. The best way to minimize attrition is never ask anybody to join. Obviously not a success principle. Obviously not a success principle, but it would appear that we have tens of thousands of Rotary clubs where that's been the strategy. So I believe this mistaken narrative has misdirected clubs into thinking that the only thing we need to worry about is retaining members. Now, that's important. Every member we keep is a member we don't have to replace. But this retention thing is highly overrated as a growth strategy. I'll say that again. Retention is highly overrated as a growth strategy. You cannot retain your way from 20 to 25 members. Sooner or later, you have to invite somebody to join your club. So our goal is to change this narrative from one of retention is the only thing we have to worry about to consistent, moderate membership growth. So what do we mean by moderate membership growth? Well, it's something in the neighborhood of, say, 5 to 10%, something that doesn't disrupt things, doesn't cause the wheels to fall off, about a 5 to 10% growth rate. And when I'm not doing this, I have a little part-time practice coaching small businesses. And this is what I talk to small businesses about as well. If you don't have a growth strategy, you're shrinking, but it doesn't have to be flashy, 5 to 10%. So I hear these things from clubs, and you've heard them too. We're just the right size. All 49 of clubs in my district that I visited when I was governor thought they were just the right size, varying from 14 to 250. And that's the point of moderate membership growth. Clubs say, we don't want to disrupt the intimacy and the camaraderie of our club by getting big. Well, folks, growing from 40 to 42 members does not harm a Rotary Club. And then growing from 42 to 45 the next year doesn't harm the Rotary Club. And growing from 45 to 47 the next year doesn't harm a Rotary Club. In fact, it makes it stronger. That's so much better than the norm. Now, the norm is this, and as Yogi once said, you can observe a lot by watching. Observing all of these Rotary Clubs, I find the ones that are failing decline at an amazingly consistent rate of about 2 members a year. That's right. Rotary Clubs that are failing at membership typically decline at a rate of about 2 members a year, which must be right within the threshold of pain of a Rotary Club. That's just not enough to worry about. So, of course, it happens the next year, lather, rinse, repeat. And that's how you get from 40 members to 30 members in only 5 years. Here's the story. If you don't have a growth strategy, if your idea is let's just continue to break even, sometimes you fail. And people typically fall short of break even by 1 or 2 members a year. And if next year's strategy is break even, you can see where that path leads you. That's because attrition's real. Attrition is real, and that's the other thing I observed across 1,700 Rotary Clubs. Over half the club's average attrition rate is because of life happens, reasons you can't even control. Clubs lose members every year. So do you know how many members your club loses in an average year? Most people don't. On a 40-member club, it might be 2, it might be 4, it might be 6, 8, or 10. So which is it in the case of your Rotary Club? How many members will that be that you need to replace? And then, how many members do you plan to grow by? Clearly, you have to attract enough members to grow, but you also have to attract enough to replace attrition. Now, I'll clue you in, the average Rotary Club loses members at a rate of about 15% a year in North America. That means the average 40-member club will lose about 6 members. So if you just want to break even, you need to plan for 6. And if you want to moderately grow, you need to plan for 8 or 9. So your membership committee can make their plans and set their targets. So you also need to know where you're starting from. What's your club's membership history? Has your club had a history of growing? If so, it's true that about 80% likely your club will continue to grow. Has your club, on the other hand, had a history of decline? Have you been failing at growing membership? In that particular case, sadly, there's about an 80% likelihood that that will continue as well. Or have you been holding your own about break even? And in that case, those clubs pretty much can go either way. So setting realistic goals requires realistic assessment of where you are and where you've come from. And that requires data that we have and data that we'll be providing you over the course of each of these monthly bite-sized broadcasts, where we'll bring you one more idea and one more strategy to propel your membership growth. So there are 3 parts of this. 3 elements of success: data-driven solutions, the idea that we need to know about our specific club situation in order to come up with the strategies to solve our membership problem, if we have one. I'll get to that in a minute. The second is breaking this down into bite-sized pieces that your club can get its teeth into and absorb on a month-to-month basis. We're not going to come at you with a whole bunch of things all at one time like a fire hose. We're going to break this down into parts month by month. That's why this broadcast will happen every month on the second Monday. And then we want to reward and recognize those people that are getting it done, those people that are accomplishing their membership growth strategies. So data-driven solutions have to do with understanding where we are, then using realistic goal setting, setting realistic goals based on realistic history of the club. And we'll be creating a database and building a website to provide you with that back-end data. So data-driven solutions address this question. This question was asked by a presenter at the Toronto convention from the platform. He asked, what is the PTS? What is the problem to solve? Is it that we're losing too many members? Is our attrition rate far above average or not? Is our attrition rate exemplary? You know, the fact is that I've observed also that there's a life happens level of attrition that happens in clubs. And it's over half of the average attrition rate of their average club. I'll say that again. The average club, half the members they lose are for reasons they can't control at all, reasons that are completely part of life happening to their members. Or are we not attracting enough members? Are we not recognizing that attrition is real, that there's an element of attrition we can't control at all, and we do our best to retain every member we can, but that's not going to get us to growth? Are we not attracting enough members to grow? Or is it both? In many cases, that's the case. Or is it neither? We have clubs in North America that do not have a membership growth problem. Clubs that have been growing. I've got a club in my district that's grown from 118 members to 180 members over a 15-year window. They don't have a membership problem, and not every club does. Of course, we need to know the difference. So keep in mind, attrition's real. People leave membership organizations. You can't keep every one of them. Life happens. Some of that you just can't control. But attrition rates vary widely between clubs. We have clubs that are really great at holding on to members, and Rotary's retention myth is not applying to them. Your club's attrition rate also is highly predictive. If you're looking at your own data, the number of members you lose in a typical year will probably continue unless something changes, unless something different happens. And of course, that's the idea of taking a look at data-driven solutions, understanding where you are and where you started from. Your attraction rate is also highly predictive. The number of members on average that you attract in a year will pretty much repeat itself if you work at membership at about the same level of effort. And we'll provide that data. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to turn it over to Andy Van Hook. Andy is a past assistant Rotary coordinator of Zone 33. And Andy, tell us a little bit more about these bite-sized chunks.
Thanks, Terry. Really appreciate your insights there on the data-driven solutions and how important that they are. And we want to talk about as you said, the bite-sized chunks. And so what is a bite-sized chunk, you might ask? Well, I'll start with the question. How do you eat it? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You can't eat the whole thing at once. And so that was the idea behind the bite-sized chunks, is that every month we're going to have a presentation, webinar that will have easy to digest, easy to follow attraction and retention strategies that are immediately actionable at the club level. These strategies are intended for new club presidents and also club membership chairs. So it's not to overwhelm them with, hey, here's all the things you can do to grow membership. Here is a thing you can start with. How do you start to attract new members and so forth? So our first session will be on August the 8th, and that session will be focused on creating a membership pipeline. And as we go through, here's an example of the upcoming sessions. So August is creating a membership pipeline. September is connecting with prospects. And then October is meaningful onboarding. And each of those monthly webinar sessions are, as I said earlier, are going to be in smaller chunks so that they are easy to take away, easy to digest, and easy to implement. And the sessions are designed around the membership trends we see throughout each Rotary year. And as Terry pointed out with the data, If you've been in membership for a little while, you have seen those trends. If you're new to membership, you will see and have that data available so you can see what those trends historically have been. And that's how we have built this series to follow around those trends and to help clubs implement strategies to get ahead of them. And so the first few months are built around finding prospective members, connecting with them, and onboarding with purpose. Each session is intended to be interactive, include relevant worksheets, and will be recorded, so it can be viewed later by folks who happen to not be able to attend. And ideally, we're building these so the webinars build upon the previous month's lessons. So while you don't have to attend them in order, it is really helpful if you start at the first one and continue on, as you'll be able to build that membership confidence. And so, as we talked about before, we all know that Rotary happens at the club level, and these webinars are intended to assist club presidents and membership chairs to help them build confidence and use proven techniques to create a culture of membership attraction in their clubs, step by step. And just so you know, we're also going to be taking feedback from attendees throughout this process. So if we find the content isn't the need most clubs have, we're going to adapt and make sure that we're providing the resources clubs need to grow their membership. In other words, we're going to need your feedback throughout this process. And here's a project plan. So this is a little bit beyond the month-to-month webinars that we're going to be conducting for the club level. This is the membership action plan because the membership action plan can only create long-term impact as a multi-year plan. So the goal with this is to roll it out now at the club level and continue to build to where we're implementing this as a year-over-year process to help not just this year's membership growth, but next year's, the next year's, and the next year's. And so we are committed to helping your clubs grow their membership. So help us help you. Share the monthly webinars with your clubs. We're also available to bring this message to your district fall membership seminars, pre-pets, pets, district training assemblies, and conferences. You know, MAP will also form an important part of the governor line training curriculum. And as I said, with the support of RI's membership development team, we'll be rolling out a membership action plan database and website during the first quarter of 2023. Our message to you is that we're available to share training on MAP to your district events. So reach out to your Rotary coordinator teams if you'd like to know more. Next up, I'm going to toss this over to my good friend, George Robertson Burnett. George.
Thank you, Andy, and good evening from beautiful downtown Lakeland, Florida. As you have heard, whilst moderate consistent growth is the goal, we want to make sure we recognize individuals, clubs, and districts who implement the membership action plan to achieve growth. Rotarians don't ask much in respect of the great things they do. Often the return is no more than that warm glow of success and the knowledge that someone or a community has benefited from Rotarian actions. However, rewards are an important part of the encouragement to participate and recognition for a job well done. And this is certainly not alien to our Rotary experiences. Just think of the fabulous job the Rotary Foundation does in recognizing the generosity of our members. And so the MAP team felt there needed to be similar awards for your generosity in giving your time and talents to grow Rotary. So the criteria for these particular club awards is summed up in these two words: participation and achievement. Each award has both of these components, and there are 3 levels dependent on the level of participation and also related to the level of achievement. At the end of the Rotary year, clubs who consistently participate in the program and grow net membership will be awarded at 3 levels: gold, silver, and bronze. So what level of participation and achievement is required for these awards? As you can see here, at every level, the club must complete the data-driven membership planning document. That's the online goal-setting worksheet, which each club will have available to them on the map plan website mentioned earlier in this rollout presentation. The different levels are then dependent on how many of the bite-sized chunks the club is represented at. And the last element, the achievement, is dependent on the growth being achieved and the level of that growth. So as you can see here, Bronze Builder Award, you have to complete 6 of the 11 bite-sized tasks and the club has to grow. Silver needs 8 of the 11 bite-sized tasks and the club has to grow by 3%, and that must be +3. The Gold Award, complete 10 of the 11 bite-sized chunks, and the club has to have grown by 5%, or at least 6. Now, please remember that the goal-setting worksheet for the map from the map website must be completed in all cases. So that is the basis of the club awards, which is the only award we are rolling out tonight. However, we realize that individuals and districts have a very large part to play in the overall plan. So please look out for further announcements regarding awards for the district growth, as well as individual awards related to the encouragement and achievement of membership growth. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at the end of this map presentation, but in the meantime, I would now like to pass this back to Director Jeremy for some next steps.
Thank you so much, George. So what in fact are the next steps? Well, first of all, let's sign up for the August bite-sized chunk Create a Membership Pipeline webinar to be held on August the 8th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And just as importantly, we want you to promote the August webinar to membership champions in your clubs and districts, club presidents, membership chairs, and others who are passionate about growing membership. We need you to make this plan happen. So let's do this and grow together. So, in summary, imagine having more members to share the load in your club, to bring fresh ideas and generate energy to give you the resources to do more good in your communities. Imagine the increased impact, the difference we all know Rotary can make. By providing clubs with an easy to follow plan and path towards membership growth, we'll go beyond imagining. Let's make it a reality. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate the comments from the presenters. I hope you found it exciting, interesting. But let's talk about those next steps again, because we want to make sure you do them. So once again, here they are. Make sure you sign up and promote the August webinar. Sign up for information that can be found by photographing, scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen here, or go to the rizones33-34.org website and search on action. And the link will be up within the next 24 to 38 hours, 36 hours. Thank you all so much for participating today. And at this point, we're going to move forward to a question and answer session. So let's hear from you now with some questions and comments. I know there's been quite a number in the chat box that I've been observing as we've gone through the presentations. So I'd like to ask Sandra Hempstead and Chris Jones to take on the job of fielding these questions and sort of moderating from here on out. And let's use the rest of the time together to discuss this in more detail and answer any questions you have and go further. Chris and Sandra, over to you.
Great. Well, we did have quite a few really good questions. One of the questions that came up, I think, had several people commenting. How do you deal with clubs that have a cap on membership that simply don't want to grow? And some comments that was causing a real issue between clubs, and that sometimes it's longstanding members that are just not comfortable with change.
Terry, would you deal with that? I know you've had this exact situation happen to you.
Sure, be happy to deal with that. Probably my best suggestion to that type of a club is think about a farm team. Think about setting up a companion club, a club perhaps that meets at a different time than your noon club, maybe a after hours club, maybe one that doesn't include a meal, which takes 2/3 of the cost off the table, and see if you can get a group of people together where you can, then you got an even better chance of vetting whether they're going to be those great Rotarians you're looking for. Are they showing up for service projects? Are they stepping up to leadership and so forth? And then every now and then you graduate somebody out of that club because, of course, attrition is real of your home club, and you will lose members each year, despite how strong and solid you are and the fact that you got a membership cap. Life happens to about 10% of members a year in almost every club.
Yeah, the only comment I'd raise to that as well is that there are certain places in the world where attrition is very, very low. You look to Western Europe, Great Britain and Ireland, it's sort of analogous to these clubs that just want to stay as they are. But the reality is they're all heading towards a very fast joint mortality, because as they age out as a group. So, whilst it may be possible to bring a couple of members in here or a member in there in that situation, in many ways, you're actually signing your own death warrant as a club. And it's sometimes very difficult to recover. So I think this is part of the cultural change that we're hoping to achieve with the membership action plan, is explaining and understanding and getting the understanding that these things just really aren't sustainable if we intend to grow Rotary going forward.
We have another question in the chat that says, will these sessions be available to use at a club meeting?
Absolutely. These recordings, we'll touch them up and post them in the 24 to 36 hours after the session, and you'll be able to find them on the Zone website. Just search on action. Go to rizones33-34.org, and in the search box, type action, and these membership action plan videos will be posted there.
Along with a lot of other resources, which we'll be rolling out in time.
So we had quite a few comments, and I'm not sure that they were exactly questions, but quite a few comments on starting new clubs, and perhaps some of the old club members leaving for the new club, and that also being an impact. And then additionally that we're trying to attract new younger members, and they're not really focused on going to meetings. They're more focused on the community impact. So how would you deal with that when starting a new club?
Yeah, let me just touch on very briefly the whole concept of impact clubs, innovative clubs. Absolutely, this plan is designed to support those clubs and those clubs happening. In fact, we see those green shoots of growth happening primarily with those innovative clubs. And a great model which has got our eyes, Rotary International's attention right now, is indeed that impact club model, which is happening, which totally focuses, or almost totally focuses, on community service. This plan, however, is not just for them. It's also primarily focused on our legacy and our traditional clubs and the challenges that we have there. Now, if the club is doing well, we're not trying to fix it. We don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're not into fixing something that ain't broke. But we're talking about here the clubs that are declining. That's who we're primarily focusing on, and also helping other clubs continuing to grow. So that's part of the question, I think, Sandra.
We do have another question in the chat box, and that is regarding, there's a couple of things rolling around here regarding how do we approach members? Do we have an elevator speech? Will we plan to roll that into one of the bite-sized chunks? And then also, how do we deal with the new members with orientation to Rotary? What is Rotary?
Yeah. Personally, I've never found an elevator ride long enough for my elevator speech. So that's something we talk about a lot. But absolutely, I mean, that is exactly the sort of tips we see happening. Andy, maybe you can sort of talk a little bit more about the bite-sized chunks and how you see that sort of tying in with this sort of request, the simple things that people need.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity for those who join in to share what they do, right? This isn't intended to be a one-way conversation with all the information coming down from the MAP team. This is intended for it to be a back and forth, and what works for me as an elevator pitch may not necessarily work for somebody else. And so we're going to have some of those tips that we've seen work as individuals, but also we'll be seeking some input from those who attend and say, hey, what's worked for you? And maybe that will work for somebody else.
Yeah. I just want to reinforce that we very much see all of you as the stakeholders in this. This is we don't want this to be a top-down type process. We want you to opt in, you to tell us what you're looking for, and for us to be able to provide that. We see you as our customers, and we see us together in this journey. And it will be a journey, and clubs and districts are all very different. And we talked about earlier on, there was a community there where there was concern about having too many clubs. There'll be some communities that have too few clubs. And there'll be some clubs who are at various stages in their development, which are attractive to some people and not attractive to others. So we really understand that one size doesn't apply to all, and we're going to have to give you the resources so you can create a separate solution, an individualized, tailored solution for each club in each district. And that's our goal, really, is to get you to become part of this process, us becoming part of this process, but to do it based upon data. And one of the things we haven't touched on, Terry talked about the Zone website, but we will have this program will have its own website and database that enables us to give you the data you need really easily and in an interactive, intuitive format. A place where you can go and see exactly what's happening in your clubs, what the history has been, and help us use that data to plan where we should be going. I think we have a hand raised, Sandra.
Yes, we do. And that's Daryl. Daryl, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I am a part of the Rotary here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And when I first got into one of the first workshops to learn about the history of Rotary and how it was founded and what Rotary was about and how it's transformed, it was founded, known as being founded by business owners and business professionals. And when we wanted to bring new members in or attract them in, and small business owners, what have you, or people that are representing other organizations, we are doing magnificent work around the world as a Rotary International, as an organization, how we are touching lives and initiatives that we take on through our new chairman and what have you. However, when we are talking about on the grassroots level of each club, it seemed like it's getting away from showing the great benefit to those we want to bring in who are business owners, who are representing businesses. How is it how is it benefiting their business? I know we have to feel good and do good as far as what we're doing around in communities all over the nation, but the individuals, when they come in representing their business or other businesses, we seem to be getting away from how it's beneficial to their business and the marketing of the business and their networking to have them to want to stay and know that their business is really benefiting and being branded as well as from someone that's a giving business, but they're also able to network within the membership. And that seems like, as I've been around a while, getting away from that.
Great story. Great question.
Yeah, sorry. Gary has his hand up.
Yeah. Somebody made this observation to me several years back, and actually we're a membership organization. That's why Paul Harris started this thing. He needed some friends. And in my experience, over 40 years, the value to me, the return on investment to me as a Rotary member has been other Rotarians helping me with countless things. There's not a month goes by in my life, hardly a week goes by in my life, that something good doesn't happen to me as a result of knowing somebody, a quality person, through Rotary. It's been immensely helpful to my small businesses, of which I've owned 3 over the last 20 years. And now your mileage may vary, but I have done a ton of business with other Rotarians. I'm sometimes embarrassed by this. I've probably gotten way more out of Rotary than I've ever put into it.
We have quite a few questions. Thank you, Terry, for that. I can't help but agree, but we have quite a few questions in the chat box that are very logistical. Where do I get the information? If we're not on DACDB, how do we get information? When is the next meeting? Just how does it all work? So where can people find this and how can they communicate this to others who have not been in this call today?
Okay, well let me start tackling that, and I can pass it on to maybe Terry or others that can give that some more detailed information. Well, first of all, we intend to very shortly build a page on the Zone's website, Zone 3334 website, which will have recordings of these webinars on it and also have the links to the future webinars. So that'll be the start, is getting people excited about this process by introducing them to these bite-sized chunk webinars. And it's an opt-in solution. We're not telling anyone they have to be there. You can't do that to Rotarians anyway. So we're looking people to get excited as we are about the opportunities this program brings. We are building a website And in fact, Rotary International are working alongside us at a very senior level. Many of you might have heard the name Brian King, who's the Membership Development Director for Rotary International. We're also working with his boss, Jim Barnes, and they are excited about this program because they believe it could form the basis of something that's scalable across the Rotary world. So we'd like to show how successful it can be. And to do that, we know we're going to have the resources available. So that website that we're talking about, specific to this membership action plan, will take about 6 months to build, and we will roll it out in the first quarter of 2023. Further than that, we'll be promoting this on the Zone Facebook pages. And as we build a database of you, for example, you will be kept in touch by direct email telling you when the next events are going to happen. And we want to build that database on an opt-in basis. We'd rather not blast out to everybody, and then because we know how much email that you all tend to get from Rotary and other sources as well. So that's the few points there. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that as a source of information. Okay.
You can hardly miss if you put whatever it is you're looking for in the search box on the Zone website. You can hardly ever miss.
And Terry, could you repeat that website address one more time?
Yes. Sure. In the chat several times, RI, Rotary International, RI Zones, plural, ZONES, 33-34.org.
So Terry, would you also provide a little bit of information for the clubs that are not on DAC-DB? I know you've talked about collecting membership data.
They can go exactly the same place. It's wide open.
Okay.
Not connected. DAC-DB is a completely separate member management database. It's not an informational site. This is an informational site.
Okay.
However, we are looking at ways of working between DAC-DB and Club Runner when we send information out. So that's part of the solution we'll be looking for. And I know the Caribbean districts and some of the Northern Pennsylvania districts will be happy about that. We have a hand raised, I think, Sandra.
Yes, we do. It says John, but I'm not sure. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you.
There we
I
go.
want to dovetail in after Daryl Bonaparte's comment. I've been president of 2 clubs and my 3rd club up here in the mountains of North Carolina. And over the years, I've seen, like many clubs, that were aging out, of course. And in fact, our particular club, I think the average age, there are about 54% of our club members that are 70 years old or older. So it has been something talked about in my former district in Florida, in this district in North Carolina, about getting youth in. And my question is, it's been very hard to get young members to come to meetings. It's been very hard to network, which is what Rotary was about when I joined it back 40 years ago. When our youth today, are in my industry as a real estate agent, are doing it on social media. In addition, we have about, when I ran the Chamber of Commerce in my former life in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, we had 150 different not-for-profits. My question is, has anyone figured out a way to bring in the youth of our country that are not joining anything other than the social media posts that our superstar real estate folks in my industry are doing? I'll stop with that, but I could talk 30 minutes about my thoughts on that. Thank you.
And we wish we could hear you for 30 minutes. I'm a real estate agent as well. So I'm in the same business. I understand totally what you're saying. Chris, if you could perhaps talk a little bit about the value of innovative clubs with younger members. I mean, I think perhaps we need to think about this as a different direction, a different approach. And
yeah, I think one of the keys to attracting younger members to Rotary is to focus on what their interests are. You know, the key there is understanding your audience and understanding who your current members are as well as who your potential members are, and then invite them to a Discover Rotary session and create an environment that works for them. And a lot of times that may mean creating an innovative club type, satellite club or a companion club attached to your club that's going to meet their needs. For example, in one of our districts out there in the mountains of North Carolina, we've got a club type called Impact Clubs. And what they're focused on is creating mainly service projects. There's no meetings where there are speakers speaking. It's all about people coming in, doing service projects, and completing those projects and then moving on to the rest of their life. And, a Rotary Club that is traditional and, traditionally meets with a speaker and so forth is great. But also having alternative meeting types and meeting plans that meet the needs of our members is a key focus area that we need to look at. We can get outside the box, get innovative, and create new types of clubs that appeals to all types of members, not just younger members, but there may be some different types of members out there that want a different type of Rotary Club, that want to take the value that Rotary brings and some of the other positives in Rotary, like our Rotary Foundation, and leveraging that to be able to do grants and great work in their community. So get creative and think outside the box and create different types of clubs that meet the needs of your potential members.
Yeah. One of the things we're going to look to do as well in the next couple of years is to build support for the growth of Rotaract and Interact within our zones. I mean, it's particularly strong in certain locations, the Caribbean region in particular. We see a lot of Rotaractors coming and making the transition into Rotary, and not always into sort of young clubs. Some of them like the traditional clubs. So we understand not every culture is the same, not every district is the same, but we think there's an opportunity there too. I think there's a couple of hands gone up. One was I saw waved in the audience. If you could raise your hand using the bar at the bottom, that would be useful. Then it pushes you to the top. But Sandra, there's someone else.
Yes, we have Willie Anthony. If you'd like to ask your question, Willie.
Yes, one of the questions I have is that last year and prior to the year before that, during the pandemic, we, for the most part, didn't really get a chance to really meet a lot in person. And we brought in some new members, but quite honestly, a lot of the new members really don't have much of an idea what Rotary is. And one of the things that I'm trying to do this month as the new president is to try to make sure that everyone does understand what Rotary is. So we're going to have an orientation for the most part to bring everybody up to snuff with what Rotary is, what we can be, and then set some goals as to what we want to do month to month, and try to make sure that everybody thoroughly understands before we try to proceed and bring in new members on top of that, and them not having the idea of what Rotary is and can be. And I keep saying can be because there are so many other things where we're not, even particularly with the youth that are meeting somewhere, or at least have access to social media. One of the first things they did is to have someone that's going to be a new member that's going to be in charge of Facebook, someone that's going to be in charge of Twitter and so forth, to keep us going on that particular. That way we get them involved and engaged. If we get them involved and engaged, we can get them involved in different projects we actually have.
Yep, and I just want to read Nico Agnelli's statement in the chat there. It says, it's all about engagement, time, talent, and treasures. Engagement looks different from club to club and district to district, but we need to make it fun and engaging. If you're bored at your club meeting, so we'll be your guest. So it's down to us, in other words, to make that engagement happen. But at the same time, we need to attract, because if we're not attracting new members in, we will lose and we will eventually shrink and eventually die. So, Sandra?
Yes, so we have a question about what is a companion club? And then
who would like to
Mike, who's got his hand raised.
Yeah, who would like to take that? Chris Jones.
Yep, I can take that. So a companion club is it's a satellite club type. The concept of a companion club is that it will never leave the parent club. So it's just really a companion. It's there to do the service projects and to do great work of the entire club. And again, the goal and the concept of a companion club is it never leaves the parent club. So
thank you. And let's go to Mike, who has his hand up. Mike Sala.
I do, and thank you very much. I'm the district Rotaract chair, and I may have just spilled the beans on that. I think Rotaract is a real key to having a migration into Rotary. You get the young people, the cost is extremely low. They do pretty much whatever they want to do. as far as meetings and the like. And the meeting times are what they really kind of want to do. They're not tied to one Rotary Club. In fact, they can now have independence. It's a segue. It's not a panacea for, by all means, but it's there.
Yeah, I think there's no silver bullets, Mike, but this is a great pathway in the Rotary. And I know past District Governor David Edwards from Barbados in the Caribbean is on, and he's the former Rotary International membership chair. He's passionate about Rotary as well. David, I don't know if you want to add any comments or to what Mike said.
No, I agree completely. I posted earlier there that interacting with Rotary clubs, though it may be a long-term answer to some of the questions tonight, is the best incubator for membership long-term. We have to put in the work with the Interact and Rotaract clubs to change that direction of the youth, and they actually have taught many of the older clubs how to run meetings to appeal to the current young members. So Rotaract and Interact definitely support those programs. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
I think we have another question. Dick has raised his hand.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I've been in Rotary 23 years, over 48 years. Started in Portland, Oregon, in Hawaii, and now in North Carolina. A couple of things we have done, and I put it in the chat. We believe in the concept of KLT, and that's part of an elevator talk. Is we do business with people we know, like, and trust. And we've added 2 R's to it: respect and relationship. And, you know, the 4 reasons that people join Rotary is business, networking. Okay, do business with people in your Rotary club and across the country. Fellowship. I mean, my best friends are in Rotary. We are a service organization. We are leadership. The other thing is the 4-way test in our club has become a 5-way test. Okay, the things we think, say, and do. And number 5 is it fun? You know, we got to make it fun. We got to make, wow, I don't want to miss a meeting. That was an amazing speaker. Or that was an amazing program, kind of thing. So we use the acronym KLT all the time. So.
Thanks, Dick. That's really, really useful. And I think we'll agree with that. I think the challenging thing is that probably all of us agree with most of the things that we've said here today. The challenging thing is we continue as a membership organization to see ourselves decline. And that is not a metric that I feel comfortable with. I think effectively, if you look at the room here, we're a room full of winners. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to turn this around. And we intend to make this plan be able to deliver that. So, Sandra, I don't know if I think we're on the witching hour.
I think we are. And I think if you could wrap it up with some ending comments. And someone just asked what KLT was. It was know people that you know, people that you like, and people that you trust is the KLT.
Okay.
Jeremy, would you like to wrap it up for us?
I would, Sandra. I'd like to think we've started something here. I'd like to think each of you heard something today that, and maybe if you don't agree with every part of it, you've seen an opportunity to actually come and be with people that care about where Rotary is going. Growth is not everything all the time. You know, we can deliver amazing service, and we do deliver amazing service in our communities. But it really does come down to making sure that the user experiences, the customer experiences of our members are good ones. So that's all about engagement. But one thing we know for sure if we do not attract, if we do not bring in new members, we will eventually die. A little while ago, I had the opportunity to be at the formation of a new club virtually, the District 7030. It was a Rotary Club of Paramaribo in Suriname. And that club had another name to it. It was the Rotary Club Quota Paramaribo. When I looked up the word quota, why is quota involved in this? It turns out that Quota International was an organization like Rotary International, set up in, I think, 1917, not as large as Rotary, but very similar aims. The reason this club was transforming into a Rotary club, because last year it hung up its gloves, it dissolved itself. Those quotarians became Rotarians. Quota International is now a footnote in history. I am absolutely determined, as I think you are, to make sure Rotary goes the opposite way from that. We need to be a vibrant organization, one that delivers service in a world that needs us more than ever. We have the opportunity to do that. We have the opportunity to give our club's members a better experience, and we have the opportunity to grow. And we believe this is the first steps. We want you there on this journey with us. We want to listen to you. We want to hear you, and want you to make you part of the solution. This is all about you. This is all about our clubs. Rotary doesn't happen in the boardrooms of Rotary International. Doesn't even happen at zone level or even district level. It happens at club level. And that's where it's important. So I hope join with me, join with us, and make it happen. Lastly, you probably will have noticed some of us with screens in the background, with this gray background. I'd like to thank all those individuals who are here with those screens. Too many to name individually, but they are all members of the Membership Action Plan Planning Committee who've been working for almost a year now to bring this to you. We want to grow this group because we can't do this by ourselves, and we want to grow it with you. So if you're passionate about membership, reach out to us and we'll find a place for you as we drive this forward. And Sandra, or Andy, if you could perhaps put the slide up again. So just a reminder again, the next steps, sign up for our first bite-sized chunk webinar, August the 8th, 5 p.m. Eastern time, an hour earlier than this one. You can scan the code there to get it, or you can go onto our website, as you've heard. But more importantly, promote this webinar. Tell your presidents, your club membership chairs, your club champions, and other district leaders that this is a place where we can come together and make a real difference as we drive this plan forward. It's a multi-year plan. We're going to be running a marathon here, not a sprint. But over the next 4 years, I'd love to be sitting here telling the Rotary world that we've turned the curve, that arrow is going up, and that we grow membership in zones 33 and 34. And most importantly, that we make your club's experiences and your members' experiences better than ever before. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Have a wonderful weekend. We look forward to you joining us next month and talking about this in between time. Take care. Good night.